Am I?
All right. How we doing tonight, everybody? Um, I this is Relatively Thinking, and I'm your host, Cody.
And I'm Sean. Today we got a pretty fun one for you guys. I don't think I put the title in anywhere,
I
but
did.
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. So archangels, archangels,
Or
however you want to say them.
angels in general.
Yeah, angels into the hierarchy, right? That's how you say
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we're gonna be
How we
talking
doing
about a
tonight,
little bit of that,
everybody?
but before we get
Um,
too far ahead,
I this is
we always
relatively
like to do the not so newsworthy news.
righty. Contagiously. All right. So first one I thought was very very interesting for our not newsworthy news. So it's this thing called shrinkflation. So what's happening is during hard times, obviously we are in the midst of a pandemic, so this would classify as a hard time. Companies are known to slightly shrink goods, and usually it's in ways that are not necessarily noticeable
Mm.
because it's not like we stare at cereal boxes for hours on end and know that one is a quarter of an inch thinner than it once was, and we don't know exactly, obviously, the amount of ounces for every single one. Some people do, and that's awesome for you, but majority of us don't. So what's happening is the old Attorney General for Massachusetts had a big thing on this, and when he was the Attorney General, he used to make sure that companies were following suit and weren't doing these practices. So he decided to go into a grocery store as he got a tip that this was happening, and he found old boxes of General Mills cereals that were 19.6 ounces for a family size, and now the new boxes of the family size that were 18.1 ounces that were being sold for the same price. Now I know that seems minuscule and it doesn't seem like, but think about, the millions and millions of boxes of cereal that they
Yeah.
sell. That is a huge difference
Yeah, on
And
an industrial level.
yeah, and profit margins and such. But realistically, it's also them taking advantage of the consumer
Mm.
because they're not displaying that that's happening. And yeah, you can play the semantics cards if they don't have to, and you should know. But realistically, it's shady practices, and they like to attempt to do that during these times because maybe their profits aren't as good as they would be because
Mm.
work is down, so on and so forth. Many other reasonings. So it's just I thought it was very interesting that General Mills was caught doing this, a couple days ago, and I'm
Mm.
sure much more companies are doing it as well.
Yeah, most definitely. That's why there's like fucking like I'm a big soda guy. Like with Coca-Cola, there's like fucking there's probably like 4 or 5 different like I don't know if this could be, but like different sizes of the fucking bottles. Like you know how like a water bottle, what is it, like 16 fluid ounces, right?
Yep. Well, yeah,
Like
most of them, yeah.
and you find like Coke bottles that are like the 20-ounce Cokes, but then like I don't even know. Like I feel like as I got older, you could see like now there's like medium sized bottles between like a 20 ounce and like one of those tiny little things. Like I don't know. Maybe
Well,
that's just me, or it could be part of that shrinkflation.
Well, some of that is just natural inflation. So, I
Mm,
mean, just natural supply demand. More people want it. They're going to jack up the prices because people are going to keep buying it. And,
mm,
you already have two of the most addictive drugs out there with caffeine and sugar in it. So people are going to, continue buying it because they're addicted
yeah.
to soda. So you just keep jacking the prices and people keep buying. So that's like, as shitty as that may seem from an outside perspective, that's normal business procedures,
Yeah.
but they're not
Yeah.
like misleading you. So they're pretty upfront. The only thing that you could say is somewhat deception, and it's not even from their ends, from the store's ends, is like the
Mm,
2 liters being $1, but the 20 ounces being $2.50 because they
yeah. Yeah.
refrigerate them, and you're paying a convenience fee for them being cold.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always wondered that. By the way, I never knew that. I did not know that like it was a convenience fee. Is that really like what it
That's what they
is?
say, yeah. That's the adage behind it is that you're paying a convenience fee for a cold drink in comparison to
Yeah, I
and they
remember
want you to
thinking
buy the cold one because they make a better profit margin off of it.
I was like getting the deal. I was like, you know what, dude, let's grab the 2 liter, pour some cups, dude. It's better than getting that 20 ounce. Like,
Oh yeah, absolutely is.
thought I was saving money. I mean, I guess you are
You
saving
are.
money, but yeah. All right. My first fact here. 100,000 years after the Dino
Meteor.
meteor. So the meteor that wiped out dinosaurs and such. What was the word? It tied in with extinct, but it's more the catastrophic thing that hit the earth, killed all the dinosaurs, wiped them all off. So new studies have found by so this was like a few thousand years after all that shit happened. Like there was a lot of what is it, terrestrial, which is like the like the grass and shit like that, right? Plants,
I
like
mean,
terrestrial
yeah.
fauna. I don't know if I think that's the way they put it, but turns out a lot of plants and all that stuff were fluently, living like very, very like recent after like that meteor hit. And then 100,000 years after the dinosaurs were wiped off, the mammals and such, any type of life forms that were still, roaming the earth met the same size, like they're the same equivalent to the size of like the dinosaurs. Like I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly, but like mammals and such hit you know, the way they used to be 100,000 years after the meteor hit. And like kind of where I was leading with it was the fact that it took very little time compared to our history for something like such like a I'm not gonna say like advanced growth wise, like living wise, they were advanced creatures, but like it only took 100,000 years for them to get back to the point of like the scale of what the dinosaurs were at pre-extinction. Not like dinosaurs after, but like like the
Yeah.
mammals and shit that were still roaming around. I thought it was rather strange, and they were saying the plant life, how it was just like thriving through like all of it the whole time, and like I don't know. I just thought it was kind of interesting. It seems like a very short time period for things just to get back kicking and flowing. But then like there was also like the argument where like the meteor helped do things with the ocean to help plant life and shit like that thrive more. It's kind of like a wildfire situation
Hmm.
where like shit burns down and it takes a little bit more time but becomes a little bit more lush.
Well, the way I look at it is like think about grass in the summer, right? How fast it grows.
Yeah.
So plant life is extremely resilient. I mean, you just need one seed to drop
Mm.
and to germinate, and they'll find ways to germinate in, I mean, the most heinous circumstances if need be.
Mm.
So I could definitely see that as far as like the plant life goes, from being growing extremely quickly. Obviously, blast site thought process and concept is slightly different. Like obviously closer to blast site, you expect to take a little longer, but at the same
Yeah.
time, just because it blew it up, it doesn't mean it incinerated everything. So what was left
Mm.
behind, seeds, buds, so on and so forth, are going to find a way to grow. It's still going to rain over it. It's still going to do
Yeah. Things are
natural
still carrying.
phenomenon.
Yeah. 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 It makes sense. Makes sense. Ah, that sounded rather interesting
No,
though.
it's still very, very interesting. Before I go into my next fact, I do want to say if you're still here for Gathers, we appreciate the follow greatly. Notifications are for whatever reason slow, so thank you for that very much. Also, it was very interesting because it kind of follows into my fact, which was not planned in any way, shape, or form. So there was I'm gonna get you the name. There's a physicist that spoke to Tucker Carlson recently. His name is Stephen Koonin, and he came out, which is something I agreed with for a while, but you know how it is with the media. People listen to the
Mm.
media, I mean, as if it was coming from the Word of God itself, which is horrible, but regardless, it is what today is. So he came out and said that climate change is a farce. It is media and politicians' tool to manipulate the bills and legislatures that they want to. There is no science behind climate change. The only science that you will hear behind climate change is from the scientists that these politicians pay to say what they want them to say.
Mm.
And he said that media should not be covering science in the first place because they have no idea about it. They're not reading about it. They're not intelligent to the fact of what's actually going on, and they don't know whether what they're saying is true or not. They're just saying it, which is again the affliction of media today. None of the thing
Mm.
is true. You have reporters that will tell you that they'd rather get it wrong the first time and get it right the second time and have both stories than to miss out on the story in general. Like they don't care what they're reporting on; they're just reporting.
Yeah. Yeah. I got two things for this. So like one, like I see something where it was saying that 3,000 years ago when it was just hunters, gatherers, or whatever, like I'm not even sure if that's like this is
You're talking about
I'm
like
not even.
Cro-Magnon period and stuff like that when we were just in the beginning of evolution.
Yeah, yeah. So back then they said that we had already done a large amount of damage to our climate uh at that time just from hunting gathering. So that right there just sounds like bullshit, right? So like the main idea of the climate change now is like, like we the emissions and like all the shit that we create like goes up in the atmosphere, it makes everything hot and all this. I don't think that's correct. Like I think there is climate change. I just think it's natural, right? It's natural for things to change, right? And they kind of use like the earth being natural in its way because like shit moves, right? The plates shift, different areas go to different spots. Like it doesn't happen immediately, but over time shit's gonna get warmer in certain areas. Like that's just how it just fucking goes. And I feel like they just probably use that as like, oh, it's getting hotter, so we should do this, and then I can sign this deal and make a bunch of money with this car company that makes electric shit or something. I don't know
Well, and it's the
that.
whole thing that charcoal burning plants and industrial plants and even a lot of like carbon emissions. Like carbon is not bad.
Mm.
What do we breathe out? What do
Yeah.
plants take in?
Yep.
CO2. It's carbon dioxide. You need carbon in order to keep trees alive and plants alive. So the whole and this is the exact concept of the media has no idea behind the science. They're just spewing out complete and utter bullshit. Is the
Mm.
fact that carbon in yes, there are bad forms of carbon. Obviously, you have carbon monoxide will kill you. And so there is bad versions of it, but they manipulate those facts into making it all seem bad. So again, they can push these legislations that will line their pockets.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It's all just a fucking like promotional, I guess. Like the same way like if we get like if we had like a promotional thing where we would be like, hey, play this app. You know, this is a good app. This is a fun app. You get to, you know, play all these different characters or some stupid shit. That's the same fucking way.
Yeah, and
It's
the app
like,
sucks like a motherfucker, but you know what? You're gonna pay me $100,000 to say it, so that way all the followers go ahead and do it. So therefore, I'm gonna
mm-hmm,
say play this app, and
yeah,
that's exactly. But you know what? That's one thing if it's something that okay, I mean that would still be horrible on on a platform like this. But that's one thing on certain platforms where you're already utilizing them to sell in some way, shape, or form.
mm,
The media is there to report the news. It's intended to be factual, as
yeah,
factual as possible. So like that type of that's all manipulation in a completely horrid scale.
yeah. I was saying like pretty much like in the situation, the promoter would be like a politician,
Hmm.
whereas like the scientist or some shit would be the person getting paid to spew out that shit to the news who think they're going to the, you know, the
Correct.
truthful people. Yeah, that's an all day conversation itself,
Oh
climate
yeah.
change. Maybe we'll save that. We'll save that for coming weeks, maybe. Number four, my second one. So the crazy bird skull. So a quick question. If I do throw up the picture on these slides,
You can do a duplicate slide right now and just throw that picture on it and make it after this slide, and I can drop right down to it.
gotcha.
And for anybody that isn't aware, if you go and watch our last week's episode, my one of my not newsworthy news articles were that's gotta rethink that the way you say that. But anyways, was about this massive skull found on a beach of New Jersey, and it looked almost like a fucking pterodactyl skull. So now, obviously, a week later, they have shed some light on what it actually is. So Sean's going to alliterate on that. I actually have not read this article, so it's news to me as well. And then we'll obviously get a picture as well for it.
So this goes to show you if we're still gonna talk about the media a little bit. This kind of goes to show like what you hear, what you don't hear. So it turns out the locals, I can't find a solid fucking picture for it. I don't know
That's all
where the
right.
hell you,
That's fine.
but so now there's gonna probably be an extra slide in there. I'll fucking all right, there we go. So if you guys checked out the last podcast, he had the picture. Now we were kind of like debating. Now it kind of looked like I forget what I said. We were talking about the Halo sword, the energy sword,
Yeah.
all that.
And a dolphin,
Um,
I think you mentioned as well.
yeah, I thought about it, and then like the bird beak also came into perspective. But as it turns out, I'm not sure where it was, but the locals, where like that skull was found, they've been saying it for a very long time. Like there's like a breed of whales that they see frequently out there that are beaked whales. Now, recently, or not recently, but for some time, they've been seeing, you know, like another breed of whale around, and they're like, you know, it looks like the beaked whale, but it turns out it's just like I guess like I was or distant, not a distant relative, but a relative of the beaked whale, and that's what the skull was found. It was a beaked whale.
That's pretty interesting because yeah, that skull's fucking massive. So
It makes sense, and like I'm telling you, like if you look up like beaked, I didn't even know there was a fucking thing. I didn't even know there was whale. I mean, I guess I can't really be surprised. You know, it was I think it was over. I want to say around like India or somewhere, Philip. I don't know where it was, but it was somewhere definitely in the Asia area. But you know, it's just fucking I don't know. But that's you know another way like the media is like, oh, they just found like this weird ass skull. They never bothered to like be like, oh, like I wonder if the locals know anything about it or talk to people that might know about it. Like
yeah, I
sure as
wouldn't.
shit, you know.
I wouldn't even. I am not partial to the water in any way, shape, or form. So that would have not been something that would have piqued my interest in any way, shape. I would have literally just kept scrolling if
Yeah,
something would have came up on it. So
yeah. I don't know. That's kind of sketchy if you think about it too. That's a fucking, you know, it's a big ass whale with a big ass beak. You know, like I'd hate to get fucking pummeled by that thing.
oh yeah.
It's gonna be the next River Monsters episode.
I mean yeah, but at least with it being a whale, majority of them are docile. So
Mm, yeah.
alrighty. So let's go ahead and get right into your slide.
Yes. So I'm just a warm up here. I'm the guy to break the ice. So I got four archangels. These are kind of, I wouldn't say the main ones, but if any religious people out there into the Judaism, Christianity, the Islamic traditions and stuff like that, if anybody's familiar, you should know at least some of these guys. I did find that a lot of times their name gets tossed around, different names, I guess, but I do elaborate a little bit more on that going in. But first one, Archangel Michael, the warrior, the commander, this guy toe to toe with the man Satan. You see him in Judaism, Christianity, and in Islam. So him, Michael, and Gabriel, they were the only two that were mentioned really at all in the Old Testament. He was mentioned 3 times in the Old Testament, all in the book of Daniel, who is supposed to be a prophet. It is said that Daniel had a vision of an angel who identifies Michael as protector of the Israelites. The people over
Israelites.
Israelites. Thank you. And it turns out, the angel who Daniel had a vision of turns out to be one of the other archangels that we'll see here in a moment. Daniel also learns that Michael will arise during the time of the end. Now, this is something I didn't really know about. You ever heard of the end time? End
Yes.
time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be essentially, the end. It's supposed to be when I forget the way they
The
put it,
apocalyptical. It's what essentially Revelations leads to.
Yeah, it sounded kind of predicted, which was kind of strange, but yeah, I did not know about that. And you find that in a lot of other religions.
You should do a little bit more biblical studies.
Yeah, well, I chose to stay away, but in the New Testament, the book of Revelation describes a war in heaven in which Michael, Archangel Michael, being stronger, defeats Satan, the ancient serpent, or I think that's what it is. Right? He's supposed to be an ancient serpent.
Yeah, there's many different aspects that they describe him as, but that's one that's somewhat fitting.
Well, I mean that's because I think it took it out of like one of the pages.
Well, no, it's hotly debated that Satan was a serpent in the Garden of Eden that convinced Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge, which eventually sent them out of Eden and into this world, and then so on and so forth, and they have to fall for their sins and fucked us all in the long run.
Fun fact, they never said anything about an apple.
Yeah, that's why I said the fruit from the tree of knowledge. It's not.
Yeah,
it was. So we don't know what it is. People think it's an apple. Some people think it's a pomegranate. Some people think it's something that isn't even have access to here because it was a different plant, like basically a different world.
I forget which. It was one of the studies that we when I was studying for one of the podcasts. But I guess the word was like a Latin word for evil, which also is a Latin word for apple.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why people misconstrued it as that. Well, yeah, it must have been last week. The misconception that must have been what it was. And then in Jude 1:9, I guess that's how you say it. It's a script or whatever it is in the Bible. Michael is referred to as the archangel when he again confronts Satan. So then, clarifies that Michael is an archangel. Yeah, so I kind of divided this up: Judaism at the top, Christianity, and then Islam at the bottom here. In the Quran, Michael is only mentioned once along with Archangel Gabriel. It is said that Michael was once one of the 3 angels to inform Abraham of Isaac's birth. So there really wasn't like too much like the names. That's the tricky part that I found, because like the names, they're not always the same. I mean, like a lot of times they just kind of associate like Michael as being like if he's the warrior, and then in some other religion they look at like this person as like a warrior. Sometimes they kind of misconstrued and say, oh, that must be Michael or some shit like that. So I did find that like not a lot of times you're going to get information with the same name, so it's kind of hard to find these guys' alter egos, but did what I could.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot out there about the archangels. So it's matted in a lot of different aspects. And a lot of it is because of all the different belief systems and dialects and the argumentation of who's right, who's wrong, and all of that kind of spews into many different things.
Hmm.
But yeah, so and to kind of further alliterate, so this episode obviously is about angels. So what Sean is going to do is he's going to talk about kind of the four most, I guess you could say,
Pro-
famous
yeah,
angels
prominent.
in kind of not necessarily just pop culture, but in most religions. These are angels that you more than likely have heard of. And then I'll kind of go in a little bit deeper. But obviously, like he stated here, the two archangels, Michael and Gabriel, are the two most prominently known.
Yeah, yeah. These other guys that I'll talk about a little bit more. Um, but the next guy, Gabriel, as you alluded to, he is known as the messenger. He's the guy that I mean, messenger is pretty self-explanatory. He is also found same spots that Michael is often found: Judaism, Christianity, Islam. In the Hebrew Bible, Gabriel appears to the prophet Daniel to explain his visions. Also appears in the book of Enoch. Alongside Michael, Gabriel is seen as the protector of Islam from angels of other nations. So this is what I thought was like rather interesting. Like, I'm guessing this must. I don't know if that was in the Hebrew Bible. It must have been in the Hebrew. That's probably why I put it there. But like, that's just already like typically you find in religions they try to segregate each other, right? So like typically you see that like my God is like, let's say my God's Jesus, right? I don't believe in that God. That God doesn't exist to me, or like though, you know what I'm saying?
So a little bit. So you have like the Abrahamic religion umbrella, where they all essentially believe in the same God, but just in different capacities. And
Hmm.
that's where, like, the Jewish believe one way, Catholicism believes another way, Christianity believes another way, and then you have the sects of each. You have, the Presbyterian, the Methodist, you have, Baptists and all that. It just becomes essentially we got a text, we all had a belief, and then I disagreed with you so hardly
Nah, it's
that I created my own way of thinking, and then some people followed me, and then that created this religion.
hmm.
And kind of split and split and split and split, which is a lot of the reason why I dislike the concept of religion. But yeah, to kind of further your point.
Yeah. I don't know. I that's the way I kind of always looked at it. That like that first person, like a first like way of telling it. Like, well, how does that go? Like the three perspectives of it. First perspective, like the truth.
Oh yeah, three sets of truth: my truth, your truth, and what actually happened.
Yeah. So I guess like I mean, obviously with a religious standpoint, there's a whole lot more than three sides, but I feel like there's probably a truth somewhere combined. Like that's the way I've always felt. Like you got that it's pretty much just biased opinions, like you were saying, like the sexism of them and like so on and so forth. Like I don't know. That's probably one of the reasons why I didn't touch too much with religion, to be honest. But the Gospel of Luke. Now this is the Christianity part for Gabriel. Relates story of the Annunciation in which Gabriel appears to, is it Zechariah?
Yeah.
All right, and the Virgin Mary to foretell the birth of John the Baptist and Jesus himself. So I also learned something with Jesus. So we don't know like his name, like we know how his name was essentially spelled. We just don't know how it's said.
Well, yeah, because
Like I
it's
see something that was like yeah, like I don't even know. It was just pretty much sounds for like the symbols that was given in ancient texts and so on. But
sure
I
that
don't
was
know.
for
I just
Jesus, because you almost sound like you were about to say another name of God, which I guess Jesus is.
I could
Is
have we
it
got mixed up.
Yod He Vav He?
Probably
It's yeah. So it's
sounds like a fluent way of saying it. Yeah.
yeah. So that's the supposed to be the unspeakable name of God, which is why it's just um YH
Yeah.
or yeah
MW or something like that.
yeah
YHM.
YW yeah. So which I just said that wrong, but that's all right. Anyways, so the point of that is that's supposed to be the unspeakable name of God, and
Hmm.
our vernacular, the closest we can come to actually saying it is Yod He Vav He.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, that's clarification. Islam regards Gabriel as an archangel who was sent to many prophets, including Muhammad. Um, I mean, yeah, like there wasn't really too much with the Islam part of this, but I don't know. This is definitely something. This is definitely like before I went on to like study, like I would never like have guessed how deep it went. Like it even like correct me if I'm wrong, but like with Jesus and so like the things that he did, it wasn't like he did it. It was that like he had that angel with him to help him do
So
that.
the concept was that he did it. So the concept behind Jesus. So and again, this is who's telling the story. Okay.
Mm,
So from like the Christian belief is that Jesus was the Son of God and had powers of a God. We could actually create a whole episode about this, which so I won't go too deep into because there's a lot of theories and very interesting things that will piss off a lot of different religions. But the theory behind Christianity is that Jesus was the Son of God and essentially was God in human form. So that's where like the Holy Trinity, God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit.
yeah.
So he was able to do miracles because he had the powers of God, and that was his showing that he was the Son of God.
Hmm. Yeah. I think Raphael is the one. You ever heard of the Pool of Bethesda?
Hold on, let me go to the Raphael slide. Actually, I don't know from the top of my head that.
All right. Oh, that's what we're gonna get to it right now. So yes, Raphael, the third archangel, the healer. Um, he was in Judaism, not named in the New Testament or the Quran, not named, but seen in later Christianity traditions. In Jewish tradition, he became identified as one of the three heavenly visitors entertained by Abraham. Later Christian traditions identified himself with healing, and the angel that stirred the pool of Bethesda, where Jesus was said to have healed a paralyzed man. And this is why I asked this, because he's supposed to be the healer, he's supposed to be that, and he's supposed to be the one that stirred. So I guess it's like a real pool. Weirdly enough, like it's got its own religious standpoint somewhere in Europe. I have no idea where, but yeah, that's pretty much what it was. It was saying that he was like the angel there to help Jesus heal this paralyzed man. Like the pool of Bethesda was supposed to be like this big thing in the Bible, or I'm not gonna say the Bible, don't quote me on it, but it was supposed to be a big thing. And that's why I kind of like alluded to like, he just had angels with him to help him carry out these remarkable deeds of mankind.
Well, again, like I said, multiple theories. So that is another theory. And then there's another theory as well that he studied a lot of ancient Greco-and Egyptian mysticism and Buddhist mysticisms that allowed him to do spells where he conjured angels and or if you believe in the other side as well, demons in order to do those acts that were supposed miracles. Like I said, this is something that like I could talk about for like hours. But yeah, there's a lot of tales about the story. You have to remember that a lot of these books in the New Testament that were written about Jesus were written years. I mean, like years. Like some of them, like over 100 years after his death, that were written about him. So they're very hearsay. Obviously, it's difficult for Christians to, talk or believe that because that's their beliefs. And I understand people, have trouble, when people talk shit about their beliefs or discredit their beliefs in any way, shape, or form. But that's just the facts on it, is that a lot of this is hearsay and a lot of it's just who's telling the story.
No, like, do you remember what was it, the acacia bush?
So that's a theory as well. So
yeah, I was gonna say
Moses with that was a theory that I had as well.
What, like reaching out to like an extra, like not to extra, but
another
like,
dimension,
yeah, and reaching and okay, all right, yeah, because I've seen I don't remember the dude's name, but I watched a whole documentary on this dude who specifically stated that he makes contact with some angel through ketamine, and like from the 70s and the 80s, like early 70s to like early 80s, he dressed in dresses and shit because this angel took over his body and all he wanted to do was become a woman. And like, I don't know if that was a ketamine, I don't know if that was the 70s, I don't know, but
I mean, there's a lot of possibilities there that I don't want to assume in any way, shape, or form of what could have transpired with that.
I don't know. He seems a little legit, dude. He lives like we're way out in the desert. He lives in like this little fucking tiny little house, and he just sits there doing his bumps of ketamine all the time. I'm like, I don't know.
But I don't know. You leave yourself a lot of room for naysayers with the whole fact of what did all those bumps of ketamine do to your brain?
Yeah. And because it literally eats away. That's
yeah. So I mean,
tranquilizer.
So like, there's theories that the burning bush for Moses was just a bush, and then he actually just saw spoke to God
Mm,
and the other angels that he spoke to throughout the bush. There's theories that the bush was marijuana because in that part of the world there is a massive amount of marijuana that is naturally grown, i.e.,
mm,
Afghanistan, which is not very far.
yeah.
And then there's a theory that there's some sort of heroin involved. Me and you already discussed the amount of heroin that is grown in the Middle East naturally.
Mm,
And then again, my theory is acacia is very prominent in that part of the world,
yeah.
and acacia has DMT in it. So therefore, if there was a burning bush of acacia, there would be some very, very prominent hallucinogenic side effects to that burning
Mm.
bush.
And you already got to think there got to be so much more like if you want to talk like along an enlightened path, like people back then, like you got to they never had the like the negative shit of like the computer, the internet, the false claims, like the media, like they never had any of that. It was just like the messenger came into the town, like the king died yesterday, like that's all they had. So it wasn't like their brain was like altered by like a bunch of things. So like at that time, if you were ever to ingest, a high hallucinogenic drug, like that'd probably be the most prime like candidate like time period for a candidate to
See some shit.
dimensionally dimensionally shift through. And
Well, and you
I
don't
don't
have
know.
the visions already of what you could see or couldn't see. Like nowadays, you have all these movies and all these things to where your
Oh
mind could
shit, yeah.
automatically go to certain things. Like you got to think at that time they were still fucking using chisels to write on stone. I
Yeah.
mean, so like there wasn't a lot to go off of. So I will say that I do think it happened. Now,
Mm,
in the context that I think it happened is a whole different argument and conversation. But I do believe that he spoke with something, entity, God, whatever. I'm not going to dispute or say that. I do think he spoke with something through a trip of DMT, which is widely believed from the community that utilizes it responsibly that it does alter and allow you to speak with different things in different dimensions and
mm.
see
Yeah,
things in different dimensions that our eyes can't naturally see because of the way that that way that our retinas read light.
no, that has to be one of my favorite kind of theories. Like that, like it would just make so much sense, and it would just be hilarious for like most asshole politicians and shit nowadays if this like came out to be true. Just like all these crazy tales and stories and depictions of these gods and angels and crazy beings coming out of these caves and shit was just because they were tripping balls. Imagine that. Like that would just like like not even to like the tripping balls extent, but like like that'd be something crazy. Like you figure out that like this shit that's put down. I mean, there has to be a reason why. I bet you the CIA. Like we know about LSD. Do we know about DMT with the CIA? I feel like they're
I mean, they had to have. LSD is
was it a Charlie?
man-made, right? So that was
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that was they were attempting to essentially create a
Recreate.
higher out like a more potent version of DMT. So
Mm,
that way they could control the effects of it, have longer conversation, whatever. I mean, if they tell you what they're doing something for, I guarantee you it's for five other reasons that they're not telling you. Like
yeah.
that's a made up farce of what they're telling you it's for. So who knows why they did it?
Mm,
Obviously, there is a theory that LSD and all that was created to also with the attempted super soldier program,
yeah.
finding ways to break different parts of the mind so that way you can obtain more strength, more endurance, more durability, and that way you can create a soldier that essentially is more efficient than soldiers on the other side.
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. Shit. I mean, that's always like a theory like the government always has, or like, whoever, like whether it be the great families or, whoever may be in control, they have like the key to fucking, like the fucking pool of eternal life or some shit. Like,
Fountain of Youth.
yeah, the fountain of youth. That's always a theory. You know what I'm saying? If anybody's gonna know about where or like if, something like that exists, it's gonna be the government.
It's
And
supposed to
like, I
be
don't
in
even know.
Sarasota, Florida, right?
Florida. Oh
That's
yeah,
where the
yeah. You're
maps
talking
were
about
decrypted for the Fountain of Youth was supposed to be in Florida before
yeah.
it was it was
Was
it,
it
it was around Sarasota area.
Yeah, it was like Cortez, right? The pirate, or he wasn't even a pirate. That's what.
Cortez was a Spanish conquistador.
Yeah, yeah. But he was that's what you're talking about, right? He was the one that fucking because he went on the journey for the Fountain of Youth, right? Am I thinking of the right dude?
I don't think so, but I also my mind's not working that well right now, so I'm not going to be able to correct you.
Well, we could say that I like the Fountain of Youth too. That's another good topic. But um,
Yeah,
Raphael, Raphael, in Islam, he is thought to be an unnamed angel in the Quran who stands eternally with a trumpet to his lips, waiting to announce the day of resurrection. That what I thought was like rather interesting. I don't know, I can only imagine that guy, dude. He's got a rough life,
well, you have
but
to think that. So the thought process behind angels in general, and it's not talked about enough, are they are the reason that we think about time manipulation because our timeline is not theirs. So they work differently through time than we can even fathom. So just because it seems like he's waiting there for eternity, it just essentially is also just means that he's just there at that time.
eternally.
Or yeah, who stands eternally with a trumpet in his again, that's to us, you know what I mean, like that he's always there, you know. It's
I
just
thought I thought I wrote internally. I
oh,
thought that's what that word was. That's why I was like thrown off for a second. I mean, I get what you're saying though. Like they're supposed to be, on the. I mean, if you even follow like the fucking, the hallucinogenic way, they are in another dimension. You know what I'm saying? Like if you take that route, or I mean, their time could go another dimension, like with another dimension. Like I don't know how to put it,
well,
but I.
it's kind of like the way I talk to you. I remember I told you like my theory of time is just relevant to the beholder. Is the whole
Yeah.
concept of like when you're standing there and you watch a car drive by, it from your perspective while you're standing there, it took that car 30 seconds to drive by, but from your perspective in the driver's seat, you drove by in a second and a half.
Yeah.
Obviously, that was exaggerated, but it's just it's based off of the perspective.
Mm. Yeah, I thought it was. I don't know. I don't know that guy Raphael. There wasn't much on him. Of course, there isn't much on this Uriel yet, but
Oh, go
Raphael,
ahead.
he was. I don't know. There was. I will talk about it after because I don't know if I'm right. Um, Uriel, the interpreter of prophecies. Now, this one really. I mean, he's not really too known everywhere. He was mentioned in the Second Temple period in Jewish history, which I think was like with the second temple and I'm sure Jerusalem was built. I think it was like 200 years probably that it spanned, but some Christian traditions, more well known in the Russian Orthodox, which is kind of like, and the Angelic Church as a fourth archangel. The Russian Orthodox, I'm not too sure. I wasn't like too solidified on it. Like I tried, so I guess the Russian Orthodox essentially like the biased, the Russian bias of Christianity, right? Is that kind of what it is? Or
I don't know enough about it. I would assume it would be a spinoff of Catholicism, just
mm,
because obviously Rome is not that far to,
that could have been what it
and
was.
obviously Rome spread out drastically whenever it was trying to take over the world. So
Yeah,
it's going to have a lot of effects on you know all of
yeah, it's gonna
Europe and a lot
expand
of
everywhere.
Asia and
Mm.
even some of Africa. So
Then the Angelic Church. Now, like, I don't know. I thought this was the Angelic Church. I thought it was like pretty fucking real. Like, I don't know. Basically, what I read up on it was like it's one of the largest churches that like this whole angel thing like isn't no shady zone for them, and like they're one of the largest churches to have or the largest followers in their church to like expand on such of such a I wouldn't say a far out thought process, but like a not a well known thought process of religion and so on and so forth.
mhm.
In the Hebrew Bible, oh, I just skipped. Most angels are without names, unlike Michael and Gabriel, as I said. But it is said that all specific names of angels were brought back by the Jews from Babylonian knowledge. So like that even stretches, much further back. And uh, I guess that's where that biased opinion comes in. So I bet you some religions were just like, oh, we don't want to take, Babylonian knowledge. We got our own knowledge. We got our own ancestors or some shit. And they wanted to take their, view. And that's why you have people like Phanuel, uh, the Book of Enoch, and we'll get to that in a second. But Um, yeah, so Uriel is generally considered the fourth archangel to make up the cardinal points in Christian Gnostics. As a name, Phanuel, which the Book of Enoch distinguishes them as separate angels. There's a lot right there. So it never like it doesn't say like why he's. I mean, like that's where the name get misconstrued, right? So he's thought to be this dude Phanuel, and it just I don't know. Compared to Raphael, Gabriel, and Michael, it just never really gave like information on why he was always generally considered to be the fourth archangel. Like it was like it's just generally considered just to pretty much make up the cardinal points. And I don't know. Do you know? Like I couldn't find really anything about him. Where'd you go? Are you muted?
So I do know a lot about him, but nothing from like this perspective, like from a like natural religion perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
like the yeah,
like
like
the
the
way
main
that you're
religion.
kind of personifying everyone.
Mm.
So
Well, I figured if anyone's gonna know these people, it's gonna be like one of these ways. That's why I kind of put like the main.
no, absolutely. So Uriel is again he's like the archangel of like judgment,
Mm.
and so in some respects you'll see him with the scales of
Yeah,
judgment, and he's supposed to be also he is an angel of light, um very similar to Lucifer was an angel of light, which is what his name stands for, light bearer.
mm.
So but there's a lot about a lot of these angels, but it's hard because the stuff that I know about them is not in a religious aspect. It's a much different, thought
Okay.
process
Yeah, well, I
and
mean, I
take.
was just breaking the ice open. If anybody knew these guys, it's where they would know them from at least. I'm excited to see what you got. If you have something that's far left from fucking what
So
I came up with.
quite a bit in different ways.
Oh yeah. I've already Okay.
So all right, so we'll go into mine. So a lot of people are under the perspective that there are two types of angels. There's angels and there's archangels. And that is just scratching the surface. So there's 9 types of angels, and obviously in the picture off, to the right, I have the 9 corps of angels, and I probably said that wrong, but that's all right. English language sucks. So, you have. So I'm going from the way that I'm going to describe them is the opposite of the way of you would normally read. So I'm going to go from bottom to top, and I'm gonna go with what we already know, and then kind of go into the other one. So obviously you have the third triad, which is the bottom level. So these are the ones that we know about. These are the angels, the archangels, and the principalities or the rulers. Again, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into each of these.
Hmm.
So then you have the second triad. It's another section of 3 different sections of angels, and these are the heavenly governors. So these are the ones that are essentially governing the angels below. You have the powers or authorities, the virtues or strongholds, and the dominions and lordships. Then you have the first triad, and these are the top dogs. These are as close to God as they're supposed to be. And these are the heavenly counselors. So you have the thrones or the Ophanim, and also known as the wheels, the cherubim or the cherub, and the seraphim or seraph, which are also known as the burning ones. Now these are the essentially badass of all the angels.
Hmm.
And again, I'll kind of go into a little bit of context on each of them. And as you can see, in the pictures, there's just kind of like a slight representation of each. Um, so first ones, angels. So they are the lowest order of angels. They're the most recognized. They're the ones that are most concerned with the affairs of the living things, which again is why we know most about them.
Hmm.
Um, Within the category of angels, there are many different kinds with different functions, and the angels are sent as messengers to mankind. So these are going to be your. I'm sure you've heard the adage, guardian angels. These are going to be the protectors. These are going to be the ones that are, the little voice whispering in the back of your head, "Don't do that. You're an idiot."
No.
That thought process. They're also any supernatural fans, obviously, you've heard of plenty of angels. So this is pretty much all the angels that you've heard of, other than the archangels that we'll talk on later. And these are just your basically as I kind of get further, it's really hard to say this without spoiling, so that's why I'm having such a difficult time. But as you get further, as messages and things get passed down from heaven and from other angels, these are the ones that essentially do the dirty work. These are the grunts. These are the ones that are their main focus is us and making sure that we are fulfilling what we are supposed to do and living the lives and being as safe as possible. Now, obviously, it doesn't always work. People die. Stupid shit happens. But that is the point of regular angels. Did I skip archangels? I did. I didn't. I was supposed to do this afterwards. All right. So this is the seal of 7 archangels. This is just a little bit of fun for me. So this is obviously a magical representation of the angels and a sigil used for that. But we're not gonna go too far into that right now. But the importance of that is not just to be an ass, but is to realize that angels are not just utilized in religious formats. Many other cultures, and even pagan religions, or not, they're not religions, but pagan practices, we'll say, utilize, a lot of Christian, Catholic, and Judaist beliefs. So it's really important to realize that you're not the only people and thought processes here, and other people still utilize this, and they don't just dispute your beliefs. So, archangels, as we elaborated already, you have your 4 main ones. You have Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel. So the biggest difference is what most people don't know, and people who have studied the Bible for a very long time or are very I hate the word religion, but for lack of a better word at the moment, very religious. The way that all of these angels' names are supposed to be pronounced is with El at the end. So it's Mikael, Gabriel, Raphael, and El is of God. So it's, Mikael of God. So there's obviously the translation for each beginning of the name, but that's why you'll see El at the end of each archangel, because it's of God. You have Ragael, Ramiel, and Seraquel. And then so like you were saying, there's a lot of interchangeable names. So Uriel in some instances is Anael.
Yeah, that was like 5, 6 names for Uriel.
Yes.
And although they were misconstrued, a lot of them weren't even really Uriel.
Correct. And and that's again is who's telling the story. And that's the problem that you get with a lot of these things is, so a lot of this information comes from some Dead Sea Scrolls, some ancient texts, and things that we've found, and then and the people that find them are then having to translate that. And now it's my translation compared to your translation, and who found it, and what their translation was, and then who studied that translation, and then it's just a lot of telephone games with all of this stuff.
And the chances of anything being correct too, like thinking about it, like if we don't even say like the history as we know it wasn't really like what it's been, told as, and you just like discover this ancient text that has these names that really doesn't make any fucking sense, right? So you just try to make the best that you can out of it, and then then it just becomes a piece of text that doesn't mean anything because it doesn't appeal congruently to the line of history that we have now today, which I found a lot like that. I just want to refer back to Uriel, where he's noted as Phanuel.
Yep.
Pretty much that aspect. That was like a text. The Christian Gnostics. It was like a small little text that wasn't taken even too seriously by a lot of religions. But yes. And then misconstruction.
Exactly. And then obviously, like I put, one of the notes at the bottom, you have multiple names. You have Shamiel, Jophiel, Simiel, Oriphiel, Azrael, and then I put honorable mention Samael. Anybody who knows that name will understand why I put that in there. And yes, that was to be an ass. I'm not going to go too far into that, but in some dialects and in some cultures, they believe that Samael was the serpent, other than it was a different fallen angel other than Satan that convinced and then created demonic babies with Lilith, but that's a rabbit hole we're not going to go down right now. Um, so anyways, so what exactly archangels do are not, I put not no, explicitly written, and is highly debated. Again, it just depends on who's telling the story. All
Hmm.
angels have duties, but the consensus with archangels is that they lead other angels and do God's will on earth. So they're essentially like the generals of the angels, and one of their main duties is making sure that the living things, i.e., us, are doing again what we're supposed to be doing and that we're safe. There's also a theory that during the when everybody was essentially, I don't know how to say this correctly, smitten or smited during in Sodom, that it was one of the archangels, Michael, that killed everybody. So they're also, absolutely willing to do whatever God wants to do, whether it's good or bad.
Hmm.
So
That's definitely not the way I was portrayed,
yeah, exactly. So it's definitely. Oh,
or they were portrayed to me. However you want to say
put it
it.
back into focus. All right, don't have to replace. Don't have to turn it off. So again, I didn't want to elaborate too much on archangels. This is going to be kind of like a introductory video. We're gonna create another video or another live stream down the road where I'm going to go a lot more in depth into the theories upon some of these angels and how they're utilized outside of just the Abrahamic religions. But for the sake of time, obviously we're already an hour in, and I still have probably like 7 or 8 more slides. I just kind of kept this part brief, and especially because a lot of these are already well known. So this is more to kind of elaborate on the more unknown sections of angels, which we'll get to next, which are the principalities. Now, I don't know why that freaking word bled into the picture, but anyways, so as you see, I did also abbreviate fallen, so I'll get to that in a second.
So before you start, is this kind of going to be like these the principality? Yeah, these were in that little switch. So
They are mentioned
even the fallen ones are still.
angels.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess that fucking makes sense. But it's like, are they, they're supposed to be fallen in, they're supposed to fall to earth. So that what do they do? Are they like literally there to be like tasked to be what the fuck's the word?
So I know what you're trying to
Like a
elaborate to,
test?
and I will. So no, not what you're thinking. But I will kind of get to that point too, because you're talking about like the thought process behind the Book of Enoch. So
Bro,
the principalities were angels that protect nations, groups of people, and institutions such as churches. They are shown wearing a crown, carrying a scepter, and their duty is also said to carry out the orders given to them by the dominions, which is the next one up, and bequeath blessings to the material world. Now, that's very important because, again, it's kind of also alluding to the fact that in the higher up echelons of the Catholic and Christian religions, basically cardinals and up and, higher ups, they understand that, obviously the base knowledge we understand there's heaven, earth, hell, there's different worlds, right? So another dimension could be said world. So they're already, discussing that here. Their task is to oversee groups of people, which I already said, and they're educators and guardians. So they're like the leaders of this tier of angels.
Yeah,
So
the bottom tier. Or the
yes,
third triad.
the third triad. Um, Guardians of the Realm of Earth. That's what happened. It broke right there. Like like beings related to the world of the germinal ideas, they are said to inspire living things in many ways, such as art or science, and they are the angels of the Book of Enoch, referred to as the fallen angels. So, principalities were essentially, again, a book that was in the Bible at one point in time, but taken out because the higher powers, i.e., man, didn't want you to think that angels could be basically go away from God's will and would,
Yeah,
go
that's
against
yeah.
God. But
Okay, so yeah, so they're completely like even they're just labeled up there because I mean they still are angels, but they're not underneath the work. They're not like working for the big guy, right?
well,
That's
no. So this is we have to remember that not all of them fell, but all of the fallen that created the Nephilim, which
mm,
which are giants, And for people that want to argue with me in the biblical side of it and tell me that giants aren't real, then what the fuck is David and Goliath? Anyways, so people that created the angels that created these things were fallen angels, but they were of this caliber. So it was in this group that fell. And I left a name in the last one of the archangels, and they said Azrael was an archangel, but he was also one of the famous fallen angels that taught men how to. They basically taught men war, murder, swordsmanship, shields, and therefore was sent to the abyss by God for that.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you got it right there, such as art or science. You get the art of war. See, like that's what made me like kind of confused a little bit. Like a science is supposed to be. That's why like I just feel like I don't know. I might just be sticking to like a biased opinion, but like it just feels like these guys are supposed to be like the you know what I'm saying, test the fate of man, the faith of man.
And see, that's again a man-made thought process. Is that we're supposed to be tested, but I mean, like that is a big theory now. Is that we're supposed to be tested in order to see if we're good enough or bad enough? And I mean, that's again a theory that I'm not going to get into right now because I could talk about that for an hour and a half. But so like Cliff Notes, essentially I forget the reasoning behind it, but they came down, they started sleeping with the daughters of men, meaning women. They made babies, offsprings. Those offsprings were giants. They started killing people, killing themselves, even eating each other because they're essentially monsters. And then they were teaching men multiple things and multiple sciences that God did not want men to learn yet because those are things that were learned when eating off of the tree of
the forbidden.
Yeah. So and then that's what now is a normal life, but at that point in time, none of these things were known. They would have been considered sorcery and all these things. So yeah, so Cliff Notes on them. Now we'll get to the second triad.
Powers.
Acid. Powers. So these are your bearers of conscience and keepers of history. So they're essentially like the scribes of God. Anybody who has watched Supernatural or know about angels in depth have heard the word and the name Metatron, who is the scribe of God. I would assume that this would be the level that he would have been laid in.
Yeah.
They're said to be completely loyal to God and have powers over evil. But here's the thing, this is the interesting one. Some debate that Satan was a power before his fall. So Satan, and so this is why I find this funny, because this would be
contradicts itself,
and I'm going to tell you why it does. This would be 2 levels or 2 tiers higher than what an archangel would be, but yet Michael, an archangel, easily defeated a power, Satan. So it's just, again, who's telling the story, right?
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Yeah, that definitely does show the bias. Yeah, it was Michael, right? Michael was supposed to be took him. Yeah. And then afterwards, Michael was even referred to as the archangel when he confronted Satan. Even afterwards, so it even clarifies. So I mean, interesting. All right.
It's just a nice little cliff note that I was finding within my research to throw in.
I'm sure we're gonna have some part 2 once part 2 comes around. There's gonna be a little bit more evidence,
and part 2 will be a lot more theoretical as well, instead of just little jabs, because again, I don't want to spoil much. So I'm trying to refrain from saying a lot of what I want to. The next are the virtues. The virtues, their primary duty is to supervise the movements of the heavenly bodies in order to ensure the cosmos remain in order. Some theories are that they have great powers of nature and elements. And then for my practitioners out there, if you've ever used the Guardians of the Watchtower, that's essentially who you are calling in that situation. And they're also referred to as the Shiny One. So the Guardians of the Watchtower is a famous way in a lot of pagan or practices. Whenever they're calling entities, it's supposed to be like the strongest entities for the cardinal areas as the Guardians of the Watchtower.
Mhm.
And so that is very interesting that the guardians in this situation are considered virtues, and they're a very high heavenly body or angel.
Hmm.
So these are your avatars, also, just for the people who aren't religious. You got your airbenders, your waterbenders, your firebenders, and your earthbenders.
What are you looking at?
Virtues.
Yeah, where the hell?
Oh no! I'm not looking at that. That's coming from the dome.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I'm sitting there. I'm like, am I on the wrong side? Yeah, I'm
No.
confused.
Okay, so again, this is I'm not going to get too far into it, and this is for just in case there were any practitioners like in the chat or watching this eventually, they'll understand the adage of guardians of the watchtowers.
Mhm.
And it actually, but most people that use it don't know where it comes from, and I believe that phrase comes from. I don't want to say it wrong. Um, I believe it comes from the Sefer Harazim or Harazam, which is the Jewish Book of Secrets. But I'm not 100% sure that that's where it comes from, so don't quote me on that. But I'm pretty sure either that or the Sword of Moses, which I'm not going to tell you what the Hebrew name for the Sword of Moses is because I don't fucking remember. But that is also another spell book that came from ancient texts and Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff.
Hmm.
That Jewish mysticisms and Christian mysticisms use. It's very interesting. Might do one about that too. That's a pretty interesting thought process.
Hmm.
Anyways, on to the next one. Dominion.
Coming up more right now, talking about this shit than I fucking could the past couple of days trying to think about stuff. Like
So,
topic wise.
yeah, I mean, well, that's the point of these to kind of give us, thoughts and
Yeah,
fruitions on, further episodes.
get the gears turning.
Yeah, gears grinding. Dominions.
No.
Dominions are the hierarchy of celestial beings. They regulate the duties of lower angels, so basically everyone below them, and they don't like being seen on this plane. This may be because they are said to look like humans with heavenly wings, which is our common representation for what base angels look like. They are said to be holding orbs of light fastened to their heads or the pommels of their swords. So
yeah, that's the fucking Halo almost.
exactly. So that's the thing is our thought processes and representations of what angels look like are actually dominions. They're not angels. So dominions, again, their job is to be like the manager of all the lower angels.
Yeah, no shit. No wonder why they don't want to be seen on this plane, bro. In this dimension, they're just another fucking
They
angel.
look well, no, they look like us. They don't want to be mistaken. They look like us but with wings. So all those movies about angels and the way they look and this and the other, they would essentially be dominions. And not angels, because angels don't really look like that. But it's just again how Hollywood things can get, and
twisted and shit.
Exactly. Then we get to the fun shit. Thrones. So now we're in the first tier. So these are the top echelon of heavenly beings or angels. So thrones carry the throne of God, which is why they have that name. They're also known as Ophelims. In Christianity, the throne angel helps lower angels to access God. Therefore, they are messengers between gods. I think this is where you were fucking with you were messing with the bullet points, and you bullet pointed the shit out of my paragraph.
How the fuck did I get all the way down there?
I don't know, but it screwed me up quite a bit.
No kidding. I'm sitting out of the fucking season trying to read it. Like I'm wondering how the hell you're reading.
Therefore, they are messengers between gods and the angels who live in lower spheres, but their biggest mission is to inspire faith, and they reestablish and maintain the divine justice in the higher sphere. So, what they do, their job is to make sure that all the angels below them continue to have their faith in God, that they don't waver. And again, this is not something that the Catholic or Christian religion would like to talk about openly, because an angel, in their light, would never second guess God or lose faith. But why is this being here if that's not the case? So maybe we're a lot closer to these beings than we think.
These guys are putting a team on their back, huh?
Oh yeah, Absolutely, and they're fucking badass. Like they're essentially. So I like these two depictions because the theory that I have is I believe this is where the concept of the all-seeing eye comes from. Are thrones.
That's the feel you kind of already get right now.
Correct. So what they're supposed to look like, the one on the left is an artistic representation of thrones.
Mm.
It's not what they're supposed to look like, but that one was the best thought process between the all-seeing eye that I saw, so I really wanted to put that in there. The one on the right is closer to what they look like. So they're supposed to be two wheels basically interlocked to where they can cover all four cardinal directions.
Hmm.
They're full of eyes. So let's talk pop culture. What is in a lot of the Weeknd videos?
You're asking the wrong person.
Eyes. He had the whole Super Bowl thing was all eyes.
Was it?
Yeah, a lot of eyes behind him and peeking and this, that, and the other, and everybody thought it was the Illuminati. Just interesting thought process. That's all. Also, some people, when they obviously we won't go into this, and people can dispute this all they want to, but there's different ways of seeing entities and spirits. There's clairvoyant, which is people actually being able to see them. Some people hear them. Some people feel them. All of that. Well, the way some people see entities is eyes. Whenever they're just able to see eyes, and that's how they know something's there. Maybe what we've thought were spirits could have been these. But yeah, and then again, so they reestablish and maintain the divine justice in the higher sphere. So they also are making sure that the angels essentially above them are doing what the fuck they're supposed to be doing as well, and make sure that they maintain, divine justice, and they're not going too far in a way. They're just making sure they're basically the Uriel of this side, this balance, making sure that everything's done right.
It's interesting. There's a lot can go into that. Like, I don't even know, just like the eye. Like, I feel like there's so much that can go into that. Because I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like there's always like stories of people just like feeling like they're looking at somebody looking back at them, right? And no one's there or something. You never like
that feeling where somebody's watching you, but nobody's watching you. I mean, now you're always being watched because you have a smartphone. But anyways.
I hate that shit. I hate every time I try to download a new app, it's like send notifications. I'm like, I get the notification. This ask app not to track websites and fucking other apps and all that stupid ass.
Make sure you ask the NSA really nicely through your mic if they're okay with you downloading that app.
Yeah. But you guys like this porn I'm on?
Good night for you too, buddy, huh? So all right, so this is the base level of the top tier. And then we get to the more interesting ones. This is one of my favorite ones next. The cherubim. So, cherubim have 4 faces. One of a man, one of an ox, one of a lion, and one of an eagle. They have 4 conjoined wings, covered with eyes. Again, eyes all the way wrapped around them. Another interesting thing. A lion's body figure, and they have ox's feet. Cherubim guard the way to the tree of life in the Garden of Eden, which is in Genesis 3:24. Say the cherubim guard, access to the Garden of Eden, and the throne of God, which is in Ezekiel 28:14 through 16. They talk about them. There was a really, really interesting picture, in which I put in the bottom right. Do you know what that is? That they're essentially looking over?
It looks familiar. Don't say anything. It's like one of those fucking, like, you see it probably a lot, you hear it a lot in Greek mythology.
No, not in just Greek mythology. It's very prominent in everything. Everything Christian, Catholic, basically every religion wants to see if it's real or not.
Yeah, hold on. It's pretty much, it's thought to be like the goblet, right? Almost.
Yeah, Ark of the Covenant, Holy Grail.
Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Holy fucking Grail. Holy shit. All right. Yes. Holy Grail. Yeah.
Well, so it's interesting because I've never seen cherubim statues guarding it, which in this picture it has.
What is that being depicted as? Because I don't know, like, the Holy Grail as to be like I just said, it was like those are thought of like it being like a goblet.
We don't know.
Not sure where
Again,
I heard
that's the who's telling the story.
Yeah. Yeah. All
So
right.
again, yeah, I don't want to go too far on that, but yeah, some people think it's the cup that Jesus drank from, and that's what's on the table in the Last Supper of Leonardo da Vinci's
Yes.
table,
Yes.
and yeah, again,
Um,
that's a fucking rabbit hole and a half.
and then do you believe that all these eyes are hyperbole for enlightenment?
I I think yes, but also no. I think that they are literally so. So this is I was gonna say my theory after, but I'll say it now. So I think all those eyes are they allude to God, the all-seeing eye.
Yeah.
It's so they have His sight on them at all times. That's
Hmm.
what all these eyes are on these in the first tier.
That would make a lot of sense because you literally, I mean, you only find the eyes the more you go up once you get to the first triad,
Yes,
correct?
which are the
You don't
people who
find
have
them in any
direct
of the
contact with God.
God himself.
Yeah,
Okay.
in the throne room, because both the last two they talked about the throne room,
Hmm.
so that means they have access to God's throne.
Yeah. This is what the protector of the throne.
And the Garden of
The
Eden.
yeah, but didn't it say uh the dominions? They are
No,
they're
so it
not.
was the thrones, which is the last
Oh,
one, the
wait. Oh, yeah.
Ophalim. They carry the throne of God.
Okay, they carry the throne. Okay, all right.
So you see what I'm saying? They're both the same thought process, throne of
Mhm.
God. So they're both very close to God.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
There was another theory I had that I thought was really, really interesting. So if you, fuck, I had it the other day, and I was thinking about it, and unfortunately I forgot about it because my fucking brain's dead right now. But it was to do with the fact of like the sides of each.
Mm.
So oh, that's what it was. Okay, so if you look, so we'll talk about cardinal virtues, right? And the archangels of cardinal virtues. So Michael is the south. Um, Raphael's east, Gabriel is west, and Uriel is north. So, in many religious and non-religious
Holy fuck.
practices,
So are you going to like how like there's like the lion god?
the lion of God is Michael, which is on the right side of his face on
Are
the
you talking about
cherubim. The cherubim, yeah,
yeah, you're talking about that picture.
yeah.
Okay.
The
But like are you
and
alluding to like how like the Aztecs and shit like have like the big bird or something?
I
I don't know. I
mean,
mean,
yes to that, but that's not what I'm alluding to yet. So what I'm alluding
okay.
to is that this representation of cherubim is a representation of also the four archangels and what they represent in
Hmm.
each of their settings, which is also utilized in many pagan practices as well. So it's really interesting how it intersects so many different things, even things that don't necessarily believe in this particular thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
Obviously, because now look at it, because you have the eagle on the back, and on the back would be Gabriel, who is
Yeah.
the messenger god. Birds bring messages. Eagle,
Then what is that? An ox, right?
yeah, an ox or a bull.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So it's just again, it's just very interesting thought process and something that I was thinking of while I was putting together this slide.
Yeah, how it kind of conjoins with other I mean religions, I guess.
Aspects and practices, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Uh,
So now for the
Sounded
badasses,
better.
the seraphim. So these are also known as the burning ones. So, seraphim are the highest angels and serve as caretakers to God's throne. Again, there we have God's throne. So these are essentially the three different angels of God's throne room.
Mm.
They have 6 wings, two for flying, two for flying, two to cover their feet, and two to cover their eyes from the light of God. You fucking did it again on this one. Symbolizing the closeness of God. I'm like, I know I didn't bullet this. So this is really, really interesting. So there are thought processes or theories that Lucifer, light bearer, was God's greatest angel or his, the strongest of the angels, which obviously we know now wouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
But it would make sense that that depiction was there because obviously the light of God is immensely bright if this extremely powerful angel has wings just to keep its eyes away from his light.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know. I always heard kind of Satan was supposed to be the polar opposite. Was supposed to be I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I don't know. Oh no, because we kind of already went over it. You said powers, right? So the power doesn't mean that high up either.
Well, yeah, it's four of nine.
Yeah, I was gonna carry it on as in like Satan being like the polar opposite, and that's why it makes for such a good. But
But he's not a polar opposite. He's supposed to be a fallen angel.
yeah, and he's supposed to be.
Well, and then there's the
Like
theories that
American.
Satan and Lucifer are two different entities.
Mm.
But
I
we'll,
feel
we'll
like
get there. Yeah, that's another fucking rabbit hole.
I feel like I know that one a little bit more.
So I really, really like these depictions. So you have the picture on the top left is the way the Catholic religion explains seraphim. It's their depiction of it, which is needless to say something that would probably scare the living fucking shit out of you
Yeah,
if
apparently
you were
they
on a
didn't really
DMT
like 'em.
trip and you saw,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the next two are just artistical representations of them based off of what
Hmm.
we explained that they look like. I really like. I forget it. I'm not Catholic. I have no Catholic background. But the thing that they carry the incense in and they spin around inside of the churches, the one on
You
the
know,
top right's carrying, and there is
yeah, you talk about how they hold it out like this and it
and they
waves.
yeah, but look
And
at the
like
top right.
smokes.
The top right, the seraphim is holding those.
You got both of them.
Yeah, which
That's
is
supposed to be. That's supposed to be. What do I feel like I know that?
which is funny because there is a distinct set of fragrances that the Abrahamic God likes. And there's two of them. It's frankincense and myrrh, which is interesting because he's holding two.
Nice.
Um,
Nice, man.
and then the bottom one is just a really, really fucking badass picture of a seraphim, and I could not throw that
Yeah.
in there just because
Yeah,
there's
it's a modern twist on it.
well, yeah, fantastical or from fantasy, but
Yeah.
still, it's pretty good depiction. I mean, these are supposed to be like the badasses of the angels, so you gotta have
Yeah.
a badass picture to.
Yeah, I kind of like what you're saying there. Like that, the way it looks, the way it's perceived by the Christianity, essentially the closest thing to God. Like I don't know. Do you think besides the fact that, or oh, not even the fact, but besides like the theory that like they could have been tripping and like they've seen like this crazy, do you think they're just like, oh, well, like we know about these guys, we're gonna get to depict them like assholes because we're assholes and we just don't want like any type of our God is our God. You get what I'm saying?
I mean, I do. I just. So I think the other thing is you have to remember. Okay, so think of like I'm gonna say this in a horrible manner. Think of the Dare program, okay? So we have the Dare program.
It actually caused more kids to do drugs, by the way. I don't know. That's
That's the
factually.
point that I'm coming to. We have this Dare program that showed all these kids these cool fucking things and what they're gonna do to you and how much fun you can have on them, then tell you can't do them and you shouldn't do them, right? When the kids had no
Yeah.
fucking idea what they were in the first place, now that's why they're doing them.
Yeah.
Now think
I used to
about the
like-
same concept. If, as the Catholic Church, I were to come out and say that it was an acacia bush or it was marijuana or whatever it was, what's all my practitioners going to do?
Yeah.
I want to
goes-
speak to
yeah.
God,
Yeah.
right? So therefore, you have to there's
Or not even that. The legitimacy, like I mean, there already is no legitimacy
Well, no-
behind it, but
yes, but you also have to remember the Catholic religion is based off of the Padres, the Fathers, and the Cardinals, and everybody else are the only ones that can speak to God. You have to
Oh,
go to
yeah.
church in order to hear God's message. You have to atone from your sins by talking to one of God's messengers, i.e., the clergy.
Hmm.
So, if you yourself could then utilize a plant to talk to God, why would you pay me all my money, all the money that you pay me, and I couldn't stay the way that I am in the Vatican?
Hmm.
It's one of the biggest misconceptions and farces in the world. But we won't go into that either because that's just gonna piss people off.
yeah.
That's for another episode.
That's another. Yeah. Yeah. Shit, you took the words out of my mouth. Fuck. Yeah, I think that might even be a more recent one. That sounds like a really fun one, to be honest.
So what is thought process on everything as you're coming towards the end? Because this is the last slide. So
Um, I don't know. I like this. This was a whole lot more intense than like, no, I wouldn't say intense. This is a whole lot more like eye opening, and it kind of gives you like how I said in the beginning, like that the one side, two side,
Yeah,
the
my
truth.
side, your side, and what actually happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gives you like, because now you have, not only do we like stop and segregate like all these similar angels from different religions, now they're all in one spot in like a matter of like that third, you know, potential truth area. And I don't know, I'm pretty excited about this. I'm gonna have to do a little bit more research on it because you kind of lost me with that the seal of the seven archangels.
I did that on
Yeah,
purpose.
yeah. So that's something, I don't know. It looks rather intense. A lot of symbolism, but
Yeah.
um, I don't know. I definitely like the way you took it. I don't know. The way it made it seem is just like the typical like like Judaism, Islam, Christian way of looking at angels. It's just, it was rather boring, to be frank.
Well, and it's unfinished, right? And that's the big
Mm,
thing, and I think that's the problem with the world right now is we take everything from what we're fed, and that's it. And now we
yeah.
are again starting to go through an awakening process where people are starting to do more and more research. But the
Mm,
problem with a lot of the people that do the research is the first thing that they see is now the thing that they're fed.
yeah.
They're
Yeah, because
not cross-checking what they're research. There's no actual research.
yeah,
It's
because it's easier for people. People don't want to be clueless, you know what I'm saying? They want to feel like they know what's really going on, you know? So like anything you feed them, I mean that's how the media works. Anything you feed them, right? You're a news outlet, right?
hmm
They're gonna, so I don't know, like I don't know, people, that's like one of the biggest problems people have is the fact that, we might not know anything, and that's just how it is.
exactly.
Hmm.
All right, so last episode, we alluded to the fact that we would have 6 topics in which we would have for our next 6 weeks. So we're gonna do something a little fun with this. Um, so next week's episode will be Sean's topic. So I'll let him say what he wants to do for next week.
Uh, it's gonna vary. Nothing like specific category yet, but it's definitely gonna be, the extraterrestrial, the alien
Outer
who's sitting in,
space. Yeah.
yeah, outer space. The guy sitting behind Cody in the back corner there.
Sammy. Yeah.
Yeah, Sammy. Yeah, Sammy Alien. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be something around that. It's gonna be fun.
So the week after that, we will be doing Anunnaki Part 2.
Hmm.
In our previous, it's the same podcast obviously, and it's in our YouTube channel, but it's our much shittier version. We did Anunnaki Part 1, and
Mm-hmm.
so this one is going to be much more elaborate. And then so week 3, well, it's not week 3, but 3 weeks from now, we are going to do something a little different. So I'm going to put a poll up on Facebook, on our Facebook page. Make sure you follow that, by the way. I'm going to put a poll up on it, and in it, it will be open to comments. And I'm going to try to build it to where you can add things on your own, and then people can vote on it. And what we're going to do is basically we're going to take something that one of you listeners want us to talk about. Any category that it is, obviously not something that's going to get us banned. Fuck you. Um, but anything that you guys want to hear, anything that you're interested in that you would like us to discuss and dive deeper into. It could be something that you know a lot about. It could be something you know nothing about and you want to, and you're just too lazy to do the research. We're fine with that too. But we want to definitely find a way to incorporate things and not just talk about what we want to talk about, but also what you guys want to hear. So that'll be 3 weeks from now. The week after that will be my category again because you guys are helping Sean out that week. The week after that, we will be discussing quantum mysticism. I'm not gonna go into depth in that. That's gonna be fun for some of y'all.
It's just kind of like, because I know there's like a theory that everything we know about quantum anything is like, you talking about like the science quantum?
It's a little bit of everything. It's got a little bit of science quantum in it, but it's got some other shit that's gonna blow some
Yeah,
people
cause,
away.
because I seen there was a whole theory that everything we know on how to measure like a lot of like space, time, like all this like is just absolute horseshit and wrong. And like there was I forget what yeah.
So yes,
Pretty good show.
but you forgot the second word.
What quantum mechanics?
Mysticism. I didn't say
Oh,
mechanics.
oh, miss.
Mysticism.
Hmm. Interesting. Quantum mysticism. It seems like everything getting quantumized now.
Oh yeah. Well, quantum is, a root word for a lot of different things.
Hmm.
And then the week after that would be another one of Sean's episodes.
Yeah. Probably gonna end up picking something out of what we talked about tonight.
Okay.
Uh, I don't know. I don't know.
So we'll TBD that. So those are your next 4 episodes.
We'll find somewhere to put a schedule.
Yeah, I'm gonna end up getting a calendar linked to the Facebook page. Also, for those that do want to support the channel, just underneath us on Twitch, if you're watching us on Twitch, there is a link to our Patreon page, and in that, if you become a Patreon, which you're not required to, if you become a Patreon, you will have access to our Discord server, and there will be everything in there. So also, it explains what you get for being a Patreon as well. So, but other than that, I think that about does it for tonight.
Yes, most definitely. I can't believe it took us an
Hour
hour
and
and
a
a
half.
half.
Yeah. Yeah,
Nice, nice.
we're getting pretty close to that. So it's a pretty good. We're right there between an hour and 10 and an hour and a half. So we're getting pretty consistent with about how long we're talking. So that's really good.
That's typically how long I want to keep it. Nice, entertaining. A
Yeah,
little
not
bit
too long.
longer, maybe. Hopefully, I wouldn't mind like really going in like 2 hours, like really fucking hard and like really good topics.
Oh, absolutely. That'll be. I think as we get to some part twos of some of these episodes, we'll get into
Mm,
that because, like I said, there's a lot that I want to talk about this one. But I feel like that's like a lot of that needs to be saved because
yeah,
they're
it definitely goes deep as shit.
very deep and it goes in off in a lot of different directions. So,
Mm.
but other than that, this was another episode of Relatively Thinking. I'm your host Cody.
And I'm Sean, and you guys have an amazing.